to stand up for a minute before we start. And stand up, and I want you to think of one thing you're really grateful for right now. But I'm going to add something to it. While you're thinking of that thing you're grateful for, I want you to jump up. Ready? We're going to do it together. 1, 2, 3. Woo! All right, and have a spin around. Just kind of shake it out. Good. This is sometimes what we need to do to get inspired. We have to get off our tush, right? We have to get up sometimes and really open up and allow a kind of new way in. And there's so many different ways in the spirit. So have a seat if you'd like, or stand, either way. So I'm here to help you today to really open up to your path, your calling, your purpose. And through that is your joy and fulfillment. And I'm really grateful to follow Grace because she has really shown us what inspiration is. In a way, Grace has found, as that old adage, that says we find sometimes our greatest gift through our woundings. So through Grace's work, she's really making a phenomenal difference in the world. And the truth is that we all have a wonderful contribution to make. We really do. And so I'm here to help you to access that, to find that within yourself. Now, I'm a spirit coach, and if you're wondering, what is that? You're not the only one. I've been called a spirit-directed life coach, an intuitive business leader, but my personal favorite is the woo-woo lady. And mostly that happens outside of Marin County. And you can't take yourself too seriously when people call you the woo-woo lady. And so what a spirit coach is actually, I'll give you an example. I was in Kinko's a couple of weeks ago, and I was making some copies. And the guy saw my logo, which I'm going to put up here on the screen. There it is. You'll see it there in the corner. The guy saw my logo, and he was looking at it, and he said, what is a spirit coach? And I'm always curious what people think. And so I said, well, what do you think? And he kind of looked at the logo, and he looked at me, and he looked at the logo, and he looked at me. He said, well, I would say that it's a facilitator of spirit, someone who helps you access the wisest, highest part of yourself. And I was standing there with my jaw hanging open, thinking I couldn't have said that better myself. So he really put it succinctly, and that's what I help people do now, today. For about 10 years, I've been working with people, business leaders across the country, and what we do is I help them access to go within to find what it is that their spirit is directing them towards. What is it that they've come here to do and to actualize? And you can't find that through the mind. You have to actually be out of your mind to find that. So I always like to say at the beginning of my workshops, it's time to get out of your mind. Are you ready to be out of your mind? And most people don't like that, to be out of their minds. But some of the tools I'm going to give you today are going to show you how to do that, how to really get out of your mind so you can get into spirit. And really, that's where everything you want is. So what I want to start with is a little bit of background, a little bit of my background. And it feels like a past life, but it was about maybe 20 years ago now when I started a company, and as Susie mentioned, I called it Respect. And this company that I started, I really created it from mind, from ego. I thought it was what I really wanted, to build a successful company, and all the things that come with success, money and recognition, awards, all of those things happened. And yet I wasn't happy. And I didn't understand why I wasn't happy, because here I was, I achieved all these things. So I started asking this question. And I think some of the most transformative things that we can do is start asking the right questions, because it begins to lead us into our inner answers. And what happened is that as I started asking these questions, I noticed something very interesting. I noticed that when I was creating my products, my inventions, my ideas, there would be these rare occasions when they would come in. And they happened in two places. And the first place was when I was sleeping. So sometimes I'd wake up and I'd have this amazing idea for a product, and I'd write it out. And I started sleeping with a pad next to my bed. And the other place was in the shower. So I'd be in the shower and I'd have these great ideas, and I don't know where they came from. And it was odd that it was those two places. Now, what the common denominator was, does anyone know? That's right. I was out of my mind. Those were the two places my mind was not involved. And that was the place I was beginning to access my greatest vision. And this really made me curious. Like, where is this coming from? Where are these ideas coming from? What am I tapping into, and how can I get more of it? And so a combination of that and recognizing that I wasn't happy, I decided at that point to walk away from success, from my company. And everybody thought I was out of my mind. And I realized it was just the beginning of learning to be. And I went on a path, and what I decided to do, because it made sense to me, is what I'm going to do is I went out and I decided I'm going to seek out all the wisest people on the planet I can find. So I started to travel, and I sought out enlightened masters, gurus, healers, sages, and each one I had the opportunity to meet, to speak with. I would say to them, what am I supposed to do with my life? And I don't know what I was expecting. I thought maybe they'd tell me and then give me a roadmap. This is what you're supposed to do. But no one ever did. They just said to me, Jenai, just be. Just be. And that really infuriated me, because I had no idea what they were talking about. And it took me many years to figure it out. But what I did recognize and learn from that journey was the answers are not outside of myself. No one could tell me my truth. I had to discover that within. So, in fact, there was one instance of someone who told me my future. She was what I would call a psychic psychologist. And I went to her, and I was in her office, and I was raised by two psychologists. So I went and I started telling her my problems, and she looked at me and she said, why are you here? And I never had that happen in all my years of therapy. And then she told me my future. She said, oh, you're going to be working with people. You're going to be awakening them. You're going to help them align to spirit. And I was a business consultant at the time, and I thought, what? I couldn't have it. I had to find that for myself. I had to discover what that is. I couldn't even hear it. So that's the first thing that's really important for you to understand and get, that it's within you. It's there, and we can access it. And tonight I'm going to give you some tools to do that, to do just that. So, but first I'm going to give you a few examples of some of my clients and what they have done. And I'm going to start with Tim, who, when I met him many years ago, was and is a very successful businessman, very hard-hitting, tough, forthright. And when he came to me, he knew something was missing, but he didn't know quite what it was. And so through a series of practical tools that I teach to really go within and align with Spirit, he began to start seeing and hearing, when he was listening to his truth, images. And the first image he saw was an image of all these young children. And when I asked him to go further into it, he said that the children were learning about peace, and that they were learning what peace was, and they were learning how to create peace among themselves and how to create peace in the world. And it was a shock to him to see that. It was so out of his frame of reference, so out of what he was used to. But I had him keep going with it, and he kept holding that vision. And as he kept fostering that vision that was coming from his Spirit, the next step was presented, and then the next and the next. And what ended up happening for Tim is that he ended up founding a nonprofit organization that actually brings peace education for young children into the public school system. And he has built community gardens in all the schools to teach kids about peace. Hopefully, Big Bear Lake, and underneath, a child-honoring community. So when you drive into his city, it actually says on the sign, right next to the population, a child-honoring community. And he's created a city, a whole city, where they are putting children first. And what do you think that does to the community and to the world? Now, his city has become a model for other cities across the country. And this came from him following his Spirit, following what led him. And it really didn't make sense at first. And you know what? It never does. It never does. And that's really important. And when it doesn't make sense, you know you're out of your mind. And that's a really good thing. That's a really good thing. So I'm going to give you another example of a woman. Her name is Kathy. And Kathy, when we were using tools to kind of center and go within and connect to that inner wisdom and inner voice, Kathy began seeing this image that kept flashing up. And it was one she really wanted to forget. And what that image was her as a child. She was born with a cleft palate. And she was born in a very poor family, and her family couldn't afford the surgery. So she had trouble speaking, extremely intelligent woman. She had a lot of trouble speaking. And it wasn't until much later, when she was an adult and could afford the surgery herself, where she had the surgery done. Now, she wanted to just kind of bury that traumatic experience, and she did. But they kept welling up in the work we were doing, where we were going in and using tools to access her vision. This wounding kept welling up. And I encouraged her to stay with it and see what it was saying, what it was pointing her towards, what was the truth it was pointing her to. And Kathy always felt something was missing in her life, even though she had achieved a lot and was very well respected in her community. But when this started happening, she recognized something. It was like a light bulb went off, and she said, I'm supposed to help children who can't afford these surgeries get them. That's what I'm supposed to do. And so I encouraged Kathy to follow that and pursue that, and she did just that. She got involved with an organization that goes to third world countries across the world, and they perform these surgeries. They bring doctors, nurses together for children who can't afford it. And to this day, she has affected over 800 children and their families to date, and she's still going strong. So there's something to be said for following our inner truth, to following our vision, because when we do, not only do we win, not only do we feel fulfilled and joyous, but look at what happens to the world. Literally, Tim and Kathy have affected so many people. as grace has affected so many people, and as all of you are and will affect so many people by you being courageous enough to follow your inner truth, your inner wisdom. So to get there, it's about getting out of your mind and moving into your spirit. And I'm going to give you some tools to really move out of the mind and connect to spirit. Now, I'm a very practical person. I'm very practical, and so are my clients. They want to see results from the tools they employ, all right? And so what I decided to do is I wanted to give people a visual representation of the difference between being in your mind and out of your mind. In your mind, thinking, might be what's happening now. When is she going to stop talking? What am I going to eat later when I get home? What time do I have to be up for work tomorrow, right? It's this constant, incessant thinking. And the difference between that and still, centered, being connected to your spirit. And we can change in an instant if we have the right tools, instantaneously. And that changes our life. That simple. So what I wanted to do was give an example of that. And so I went to Sedona, and I walked into a little store there where they do what's called aura photographs. All right, and what it is, it's a Kirlian photography which the Russians developed. And it's a technology that measures your electromagnetic field, right? And our energy field is changing all the time. And so what I said to the woman who was taking the picture behind the camera, I said to her, okay, I want you to take the first picture and then look at your watch and wait 3 minutes and then take the second one. And so she agreed. You know, it wasn't that odd of a request. I mean, after all, I was in Sedona, you know. And so she did that. And so what I did for the first photo, I didn't change anything. Okay, the first photo, I just decided I'm going to just think, just like I normally would, think about what I might buy in the store later or what I might have for dinner. Just think. And then, after she took the first picture, I shifted. I used a tool, a couple of which I'm going to show you today, to center and to connect. And that's all I did for those 3 minutes. And she took the second picture. We'll see if it comes up. When I was in my mind, my aura, so I'll give you an example. So the aura around my body was just dark, like this, and dense, only about to here. All right? 3 minutes later, when she took the picture, my aura was white and gold and expansive out to here in 3 minutes. Now, who would you rather be, in your mind or out of your mind? Right? In your mind or out of your mind. So think about, we live in a law of attraction universe, so think about what happens, what shifts when we can actually be in the world and be out of our mind. Our mind isn't running us, not running the show. Mind is important, it's a useful tool, but for most of us it's driving the car. And if the mind is driving the car, we will never arrive at our destination, ever. So what we want to do is bring the mind along, but put it in the back seat and let the spirit drive. Because when the spirit drives, that's when miracles happen. That's when alignment happens, and that's when joy and true fulfillment happen, and your calling is realized. All right, so we're going to start by, I'm going to show you the first tool, which is a tool to empty your mind, all right? So this is a big, giant open rose, all right? A big, giant open rose. And I'm going to explain this technique, and then I'm going to have you try it. Now, here's the thing about any tool, okay? This is in my experience, is that if you're going to use a tool, don't judge it ahead of time, okay? Don't say, oh, I don't know if it's going to work for me, or, you know, I've tried something like this before. Put all your doubts aside, Okay? Show up 100% and try it. And then, if it doesn't work for you, throw it out. Throw it out. Because I believe in the potluck approach to spirituality. It has to work for you, all right? But if you decide ahead of time, it will not work for you, all right? So I encourage you to be a scientist in your own life, to really be a scientist, to show up, to experiment, see if it works, really see if it works, and then discern after you use it, whether to use it or not, okay? So put all your doubts aside, and this particular tool is a tool for emptying your mind, and it's really important because our mind gets so full. How are we going to hold truth? How are we going to hold compassion? How are we going to hold love? How are we going to hold service? It's too busy. It's too busy. There's no place for it. Those qualities are innate in us. And when we empty the mind, they start bubbling up. And they're there. They're present. So maybe we're looking outside for love and acknowledgement and this or that. But it's all in here. So when we empty the mind, those things can be present. So in this visualization, you're going to visualize a big, giant open rose out in front of you. And we're going to be placing our thoughts, we're visualizing, placing our emotions, placing all kinds of things in the rose. And then we're going to see that rose exploding into love and light. All right? So I'm going to have you close your eyes, and I'm going to walk you through it. Again, just be a scientist. See how it feels. So just take a deep breath right now and just notice. Just notice where you are right now. Good. Good. Now, I want you to visualize outside of your space a big open rose. Open like the hands of Source. Big open rose. And I want you to just imagine, visualize putting in there whatever's in the forefront of your mind. I didn't like what I had for dinner. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I wish you would hurry up so I can go to bed. Whatever it is. Now, I want you to put your anger in there. I want you to see if you have any anger. It could be from yesterday's argument, or it could be from 3 years ago. See that going into the rose. Any fear you might have, any fear that's welling up in you, see that and place that in the rose. Situations in your life, any situations that you don't have the answers to yet, put that in the rose. People that maybe you're in conflict with, visualize that going into the rose. Doubt or confusion, see that going in. And then I want you to see anything else, and you don't have to know what it is, just see it as the color red and put it in the rose. Every last drop of red, just get it out of your mind and into the rose. Just let go. Good. And at the count of 3, I want you to visualize that rose exploding into pure love and light, just transmuting all that energy. 1, 2, 3. Let it go. And just sink into that for a minute. Notice the difference. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. What do you notice? Feel the room. The room feels a lot less crowded. So this is a technique for emptying your mind, for releasing thoughts. Now you can do that in 30 seconds or less. You could do it in 10 seconds. You could do it driving in your car on the way to work. Of course, keep your eyes open when you're doing it that way, right? So this is a technique to really empty the mind. Now, after you empty the mind, we've got to connect to spirit. All right, so, and this is what I call centering. Beautiful trees reaching up to the sky with the sun coming in. Okay, so for this, these are all active meditations that I'm teaching you, which seem to work really well with people because it gives us something to engage in. So for this one, I want you to stand up. And I want you to just notice how you feel right now. Just kind of check in and see how you feel. See if you feel grounded or ungrounded. Now, for this technique, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to visualize the most beautiful tree, wise, ancient, strong, powerful. And I want you to see the trunk of that tree encompassing around your rib cage and going all the way down into the center of the earth, where the roots wrap around the center 3 times. All right? And I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to guide you through it. And then I want you to notice the difference. All right? So call up that redwood tree or that big sequoia and make it much bigger than your physical body. See the trunk of it wrapping around your rib cage and your whole body. Feel the power, the strength of that tree. See that tree as it goes down through the earth and all the layers of the earth, where the roots wrap around the center 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now just notice how that feels when you do that. How does it feel different? What do you notice? Grounded. What else? Stronger. Anchoring. More present. Yeah. Feel the room. Have you ever walked into a room with this many people and it felt this peaceful and calm? Just notice that. Good. Now sit down and see if you can ground sitting down as well. See how that feels. Now someone said brings you, I felt more present, and that is really the key. This is the key, because everything we want is in the present. Everything that we want is in the present moment. Most of us aren't in the present. And if we're not in the present, we won't access our gift, right? That's why they call it a present. We won't access our gift, so we have to be in the present moment. And this tool brings you in alignment with your spirit, centered in the now, because that's where your truth is. It's nowhere else except right there. So once you empty your mind and you bring yourself centered into your center, then we've got to connect to our joy, our heart. What makes our heart sing? As Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. Because when we do, that begins to lead us to our gifts and to our calling, to our joy and fulfillment in life. And we're going to do a little exercise. And when you walked in, you got a sheet of paper and it said, what makes my heart sing? And we're going to do a little exercise where I'm going to ask you to call up what comes to you in a visualization I'm going to take you through of what makes your heart sing. And this is really important because this is going to lead you to your true path of service in the world. So grab your sheet and pen so it's handy there. All right, so we're going to combine things. So take a moment just to ground yourself. See that tree trunk going down into the earth, wrapping around the center 3 times. And then I want you to take a minute and just put your hand on your heart. And just take a few deep breaths. Just breathe into your heart. Good. Now we know there's a part of us that knows what makes our heart sing. And it can be a very small thing or a big thing. But we're going to let our spirit guide us, not our mind, to what that is. So whatever image that you see when I prompt you, write it down, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Again, like I said, if it doesn't make sense, it's even better because you're out of your mind. All right? So take a moment, connect to the heart, feel yourself grounded. Feel yourself present. Connect to your truth. At the count of 3, I want you to just see and trust whatever you get, however crazy or out there it is. The first thing that makes your heart sing, 1, 2, 3. And write it down. First thing you get. Just trust what you get. Could be a sunrise. Could be a walk in the park. It could be children, babies. Just write down whatever you get, because I'm going to ask you to share it in a moment. Good, and we're going to tune into the second thing. Again, let your spirit guide you. Just trust. Trust what you get. There's no wrong answers. That's the beauty of being spirit-led. At the count of 3, I want you to see the second thing that makes your heart sing. 1, 2, 3. Write it down. Good. Just centering again, visualizing your grounding cord, being really connected. I'd like you to close your eyes and see the third thing that comes to you that makes your heart sing. 1, 2, 3. Write it down. Now I'm going to ask you now to turn to the person seated next to you, and if you're not seated next to someone, move to where someone is and share what you got. Just share it, because when we share it, something happens. Something happens. So go ahead and turn to the person next to you and share what you got. So how did the room shift when you started sharing what makes your heart sing? How did it feel? Sorry, I can't hear you. Energizing, yeah. Joyful, yeah. Yeah, so this is the beginning of the way in, And a next step around this might be to finish it, to go home and to finish it, this worksheet, and to really call up what are those things, and then begin doing them. And it's just one small step, and then the next that lead us to our calling and our vision. And it's really important to understand that when I first walked away from my company, I had no idea what the journey would actually bring me at all. All I knew was my next step. That's it. That's all I knew. I didn't know. If someone told me, I wouldn't have believed them anyway. And that's what being spirit-led really is about. It's being willing to listen to our truth and to follow it and to act on it. So what we tend to find is when we follow our joy is that, and we cultivate it, which is this practice of what makes our heart sing, is that our joy often ends up meeting the world's great need. And it becomes an offering, a service offering for others. You know, we know what we love to do. You all do, but you might have forgotten because you spend too much time in your mind, like I did. And in fact, you know, when I was a little kid, really young, I loved being a teacher. So I'd gather my sister and I'd sit her there and I'd say, okay, I'm going to teach you something now. And I just did that. I wasn't even in school yet. No one told me to do that. It's something I innately knew was in me that I loved. I love inspiring people. I love awakening people. I love to connect them to their true self and their wisdom and see them really shine, really take off. And what I find is when each person aligns to spirit, the world is changed. Because no one can align to spirit and not recognize our connection. It's not possible. And when we recognize that connection, we will automatically, without even thinking about it, begin to make a difference in the lives of others. It's just a natural path. And this is happening individually and collectively on the planet. So it's 2012. What are we waiting for, right? What are we waiting for? So a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. That's it. You don't have to know. I mean, what stopped me a lot in my life was thinking I needed the end plan, you know, the end game, you know, what is it supposed to look like? And when I did that in the earlier part of my life, when I was leading from mind, I built a life that was much too small for me, that didn't resonate with me, that didn't fulfill me on a heart and spirit level. And so when I embarked on the spirit path, I didn't know what it looked like. And I still don't. It keeps changing and expanding and growing, but it's so wonderful to be present for all the miracles that are happening. And now I wouldn't trade my life for anything. I love what I do. I have so much fun, and there's so much joy in it. And everybody can have that. I'm not special in any way. So I know if I can do it, you can do it. So it's really about asking yourself right now, let's just put it this way, you've taken your first step because you're here. Woo! You're here. Congratulations. So what's your second step going to be? What is it? Maybe it's finding tools that work for you. You don't have to use these tools. There are many paths into spirit, and it doesn't matter. It's whatever resonates for you. The important thing is that you take that step towards your path, because it will lead you to your calling and your greatest gift. So be out of your mind, right? Let your spirit lead and listen to your truth. Now, I'm just going to close with conversations I had with my grandfather before he was dying. And he was 92, and we were really close. And we had these really wonderful conversations about life and about death. And, you know, he would tell me, you know, Jenai, my life was really wonderful. I had a really wonderful life. And I would ask him, I'd say, Grandpa, well, why? Tell me what your secret is. You know, here he was, 92, lucid, smart as a tack, full of joy, and wanting still to change the world. And he said to me, well, you know, Jenai, every night I go to bed and I think about all the people that I've helped, that I've served, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy. And he says, I feel like I've really made a contribution with my life, and that's a good life. So he had a huge impact on me, and his message, I think, is true. It's a true message. We all have a gift to give, and when we give that gift, the world becomes a better place.